next storyteller is an amazing motorcyclist, and I look to her for a lot of inspiration, and just whenever I feel that I don't know quite how to challenge myself, I just kind of dig deep a little bit and go, you know what? If Luise can do it, I can do it. So we have up next Luise Barnikel, who has a hell of a year story to tell. I can't wait to hear it. But I know that she's had a lot of firsts in this last year herself. I don't know what her story is about, which just makes it exciting for me to come to these events myself. But I know that just hanging with her this summer at a few events, watching her do her thing, she's an amazing motorcyclist. She's a road racer. Folks, she gets out there and does that low shit, and it's amazing to watch. I've seen her on the track. I've seen her in the burnout box. This woman kicks ass. Please give a warm welcome to Luise Barnikel, please.
All right, I'm Luise. I just finished my first full season of road racing, and I'm super honored to be here among everyone else telling their story, and thank you, Caesar, for having us. So I'm here to actually tell you about the year before my first season of road racing, in what over that time frame sort of became the greatest challenge of my adult life, maybe in a weird way. So for those of you who may not know, motorcycle road racing is on a paved track. You have turns that go left and right, so you have elevation changes, and depending on the track, you might go any which way, but it's paved. So it's risky, and you need a lot of rear tires, and it's fun. It's a huge adrenaline addiction, and I'm sure everyone here in this room knows what it's like to just have the best time ever on two wheels, right? So that's what that is for me. Yeah, and so in order to race, you have to have a race license. There's a few organizations that offer the class and the certification, and it consists of just a day where you go out there and you spend half of your time out on the track with coaches, and they watch you riding, and the other half is in the classroom, and you do some sessions, and then at the end of it, there's a short test, like a multiple questions test. So to sum it up, the only requirements in order to be a road racer are pass the test and don't crash. All right,
It's true.
pretty easy, right? So September 2021, I had been riding on the track for a while. And I was like, let's get this done. I want to race next season. Like, I'm going to get my license. And it was a really good day. Things were going well. And at the end of the day, sometimes it'll be a mock race, or sometimes it'll be mock starts. Race starts or something that's really complicated, and it gets dangerous really fast in road racing because speed differentials, and it's actually a pretty complicated part of the deal. So we get ready for our mock race start, and the first row of the racers is all coaches, and the second row is me and the guy who's also getting his license. So we're probably like 15 to 20 feet behind everyone. The green flag waves, and everybody goes, right? You're just fixated on this green flag. You're like a little bit adrenaline. You're like, I'm not really racing, but I'm getting ready to go, so you go. In the first row, the guy who's in front of me, staggered, stalls his bike, loses his balance, and I'm already like halfway between us, right? So I'm just pinning it. He falls into my race line, and I hit him in the helmet with my foot peg. So I'm like, holy shit, I don't know what's going on. I had crashed before, but like not, I hadn't hit anyone before, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm like I lean my bike up against the thing because we don't have kickstands, so I lean it up against the concrete, and I start crying in my helmet, and I'm like, oh, I fucked this up. And I run back there and he's on the ground. And I was really terrified. I didn't know what to do. He's okay, but they're gonna take him to the hospital to just get checked out because it's the head and these things happen and we get taken to the hospital quite a bit, but he was fine. He was totally fine, but yeah, the second row was supposed to be a second wave, and had I not gone when I did, I wouldn't have hit him. So anyways, you know what the rules are. Pass the test and don't crash. So I crashed, I failed. I was pretty heartbroken. I didn't make it. And as a woman in a very male-dominated sport, and still has to be said, you already feel like you kind of have to prove yourself a little bit more than usual. So I was really bummed out, and I was just like, I can't believe this happened to me. And it was also the last race class of the season, so it was September, so I was gonna have to wait until, I was just stoked, right? Total wet blanket, I had to wait until next season in the spring to take the race class again. So I did. April 2022, 6 months later, I'm back in the class, same track. Know the track. Renewed energy, right? Because yeah, that was back then. I'm super stoked. Let's do it. It's like that was a fluke, you know. I'll just pass my test, get my license. And it was already the beginning of the season. I wanted to race a whole season. So there was like no time to lose when it came to getting my license. The weather was good. It had rained the day before, but it was a nice day, the day of. I was at Audubon Country Club in Joliet. Things were going well. We had a few track sessions, a few classroom sessions. We had lunch. During lunch, back out on the track, unbeknownst to me, a tiny little river of seepage had formed in turn 4, which seepage can form in a place like Joliet that's actually just a swamp. It'll bring the rainwater from previous days up onto the track surface if it's hot enough. So I'm running slicks and this is road racing, so I lean into the turn, my tires hit the little river that there is, I lose grip, and the bike just slides out from underneath me in like the slowest of most gentle low sides that there ever was, and I'm like, ah, and the bike goes a little faster than you go, and you're like, ah, and you're going into the mud. And it doesn't hurt, like, you know, you're just screwed. So, you know what the rules are, right? Pass the test, don't crash. I crashed. I cried a lot. It took a lot for me to get there and to try again. And I couldn't honestly remember a time in my adult life that had failed so hard. Like, we all start adult life and we get a job and whatever, but like racing was something that I challenged myself with, and I was like, I can't believe this happened to me again. I was super, super heartbroken. And so then I started doubting myself. Am I cut out for this? Like, mentally, is this something that I can do? If I do race, am I even gonna be good at it? I was like, man, all these guys out here, they're so fast. Is it worth all the ups and downs and all the crazy emotional roller coaster? So there I am, I'm in the paddock, and I've got this dirty, muddy, broken bike in front of me on a stand, and I'm just, I'm in my tears, you know, trying to calm down. And this woman walks up to me, and she goes, oh, what happened? It's not just any woman. It's Jessica Pizzi, number 26, very established racer. She competes at the national level. She runs a performance shop with her husband in Wisconsin. They sell Pirelli tires at the track. So like, I had been Instagram fangirling this woman for a long time, all right? I'm like, oh, look at her, so I want to do that, right? Yeah. she doesn't, yeah. She's like, what happened? You know, let's see what we can do here. She goes, I'm Jessica. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I'm blushing. She goes, why don't you come over and we'll just, you know, because she knew I was struggling. She goes, why don't you come over and we'll just get your bike all cleaned off and we'll go from there. And I was like, oh, you don't, So she proceeds to just push my bike over to their pit area. And she and her husband, who's also a very accomplished racer and holds many records and has won a Moto America race, just proceed to like clean my bike off. And they're just he's blowing off the dirt with his, you know, air, and we're just getting mud and grass off of it so that we can kind of see like what's the actual damage, like calm down, like what's the actual damage to your bike. It was the most magical 15 minutes of literal brush your shoulders off that I had ever had. It was like we were removing the signs of what had been there before and in the past. And they're just there, we're just cleaning this bike off, just getting it ready to go. And before I knew it, I had already turned the corner to preparing for my next attempt. And we ended up having a really nice conversation, and you know, I was obviously fangirling still pretty hard, but I also became a Pirelli customer for the following season, which is not a surprise. But ultimately what I left with and what this woman gave me was the courage to just try again. The comfort of knowing that you will crash, but you just have to get back out there. And my third try at racing school, ultimately it was third try's a charm. I passed, I raced. I got really addicted to the competitive side of motorcycles. But it took me a long time to get there, a year plus. And that shit was hard. And just like with any other type of riding, I mean, we heard the stories before this too, the community of people in racing is really important, and you make a lot of friends out there. And I just wish everybody their own dust your shoulders off moment, because as we say in road racing, the lows are lows, but the highs are so high. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. And man, hell of a year. How many of you have thought about entering the world of racing?
Do it.
Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, I too have thought about at least taking the race courses. I do not have a competitive spirit at all. There's not a single bone in here that is at all competitive. But just for bike control, right? Just to be a better rider, take those classes, learn those skills, and man, what a hell of a year you're gonna have once you start taking those classes and learning those skills. And cheers to Luise for taking it on and not getting discouraged, because it is so easy to get discouraged in this sport, which is literally life and death, right? Like, you're like, man, you know, I had this crash and I don't feel good about it. And you just kind of have to dust off those shoulders, take a deep breath and go, trust those skills, I got this, right? And that's really the power of motorcycling, is trusting yourself, going with your gut and saying, I got this. And whether it's building a bike, whether it's taking on a new aspect of motorcycling, and whether it's just getting on the track and riding, it's an amazing sport to be a part of. And I'm so proud to build myself into this community of motorcycling, because I had no idea it was such a large community. It's amazing. And I'm just really thankful that you're here, you're hearing these stories, you're hearing these tales, and being able to relate to them is just an incredible experience in and of itself. So huge thanks to Louise, Jason, and Steve so far. Thank you so much for your stories.